The boy who had no story. A long time ago in Ireland lived a little boy by the name of Rory O'Donoghue. Now Rory was a wonderful lad. He was about 9 or 10 years old. And he had a very unusual part-time job. But you see, Rory's mother knitted the finest woolen socks that you would have seen anywhere in Ireland. You all know those woolen socks, you know, the ones that are thick. And in the winter time you can pull them up on your legs and they just take the heat and they wrap them around and keep you warm. Well, as I said, Rory's mother was wonderful at knitting these socks, and people knew about her, and she would get orders from distant towns. And Rory's job was, when she had several orders filled and he had a whole sack of these socks, it was his job to go and deliver them. Now you might be wondering, you'd be wondering about the safety of a 10 or 11-year-old child traveling along the road on his own. But there was no worry. For you see, everybody in the villages and the towns knew the day that Rory would be coming with the socks. And it was almost like an echo. It was almost like a song that traveled along the road. Rory is coming with the socks. Rory is coming with the socks. Well, this particular day, he set out a little bit after dinner time. Dinner time in Ireland, their big meal around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he had the sack of socks over his shoulder, and he's walking down the road, and he knows exactly what direction he has to go in. And suddenly he becomes aware of the fact that it's getting dark rather quickly. And he thinks to himself, oh no, that's strange, it's the middle of the afternoon, well maybe there's a storm coming. But no storm came, and suddenly it was totally dark. And at that time there was no lights on the road, and you barely could see the hand in front of your face. Now Rory was a very smart boy, and he didn't panic. He said, well, I have to just find myself a place to stay for the night. So when his eyes got used to the light of the night, and he took himself off in the direction that he knew he had to go. And suddenly he saw up on the left a very large house, and he thought to himself, well, now I've traveled this road many times, and I don't remember a house that large. But he went up to it anyway. And in those days, people didn't have bells. They had what they called knockers on the doors, and many times they had the face of an animal like a lion. There was an enormous knocker on this door. So Rory took the knocker and he banged it up against the door. Bang! Come in, Rory O'Donoghue. Oh my God, Rory said, there's a man inside that house and he knows my name and he hasn't seen me as yet. But Rory was a brave lad, as I said, and he pulled open the door of the house, and we walked in. He saw the most beautiful room that he had ever seen in his life. Beautiful colors on the wall, and pictures and wonderful furniture that was arranged very nicely. You're welcome to my house, Rory O'Donoghue. Come over here, sit down and rest yourself. And the voice took Rory and he turned to the right, and there in that house was common in many Irish houses a very large fireplace with what they called an hob, where you could sit in along the walls of it. And there, sitting by that fire, was the smallest man that Rory O'Donoghue had ever seen in his life. He couldn't have been any more than 4 feet 1 inch. Come over here, Rory, and rest yourself. And very tentatively, Rory went over and stood by the little man. Sir, said Rory, I'm looking for a place to stay for the night. Would you keep me for the night? Oh, I'll be delighted to keep you, Rory. Now sit down. And with that, the little man snapped his fingers, and Rory was about to look for a chair, and suddenly he heard a sound coming from another part of the room. A chair rushed up, hit Rory behind him, and he sat right down. Rory looked at the little man in amazement. And the little man just smiled. "Well, Rory, you must be hungry. Would you like something to eat?" Yeah, yes, I would, sir. It seems strange. It seems I only had my dinner maybe an hour ago, but for some reason I am hungry. "Well, very good, Rory. We'll take care of that." And the little man snapped his fingers and sat there. And after a few moments, Rory became wonderful smells and odors started to travel throughout the house. Smell of wonderful meats and potatoes and vegetables. And a moment later, the little man once again snapped his fingers, and from out of a closet somewhere in the room, a beautiful tablecloth set along this table. And then from another, lovely dishes, or delf as they call, and then spoons, knives and forks, and set itself up on the table. And again, Rory looked at the little man in amazement, and he just smiled. And they waited. And the little man said to Rory, "Well, Rory, I think that our meal is ready." Once more, snap the fingers. "Move yourself up to the table." And Rory was about to move, and suddenly the chair took Rory and placed him at the table. And the little man on the other side. And from suddenly different parts of the house came beautiful plates of meat, and wonderful potatoes, and wonderful vegetables. "Rory, enjoy your meal." And the little man started to eat. And Rory started to reach for the knife and fork, and he stopped. And the little man said, "Rory, don't you want to eat?" Oh, no, sir. It's just that since I've come into your house, everything has been magically done for me. I thought maybe the knife and fork would put the food into my house. Ah, Rory, you're a very smart boy. But no, Rory, you'll learn. There are some things in life we must do for ourselves. Eat your meal. Well, now, Rory O'Donoghue had many wonderful meals from his mom. His mom was a wonderful cook. But this meal, when he took that food into his mouth, it was something extraordinary. He had never tasted it before. And he filled himself to complete satisfaction. And afterwards, he and the little man went back to the fire, and the little man said to him, "Rory, do you know how I spend my evenings here?" No, sir, I don't." "Well, I spend 1/3 of my evening eating and drinking, 1/3 of my evening singing songs and telling stories, and 1/3 of the night sleeping. Now, Rory, I think you'll agree you've had a wonderful meal." "Yes, sir, it was a wonderful, best meal I've ever had." "Well then, Rory, I'd like you sing me a song." Sir, I've never really, learned songs. I've never been very good at singing." "Well then, surely you can tell me a story." Sir, I was never good at stories. See, I never really learned any stories. "Well, Rory O'Donoghue, if you cannot sing me a song or you cannot tell me a story, you will go from my house." And with that, suddenly, a force, Rory didn't know where it came, took him along with his bag of socks out the door, and he rolled all the way down the road. And he looked back and he thought, well, now that was a strange house and a very unusual one. And he was still, didn't panic. I will find a place to stay for the night. And he started to walk down the road again. And then in the distance, he saw another light way off on the right. And at first he thought to himself, it's another house I can try. But as he got closer and closer, he realized that it was a campfire that was on the outside. And as he got closer, a very large, what he thought was a tree behind the campsite. But then as he got closer and closer, behind that campfire, it was a very large man. The largest man he had ever seen in his life. He must have been at least 8 feet high. And when Rory got closer, the tall man said, "You're welcome to my fire, Rory O'Donoghue." "Oh, this is amazing, Rory. Here's another man who's never met me before, and he knows my name. Won't you sit down by my fire and rest yourself?" Well, Rory sat down, and then he noticed that the man was cooking a pig on a spit, and he was turning it very, very slowly. And then Rory noticed a very unusual thing. Every time the pig came around, it seemed to look at him and wink and grunt. Well, after a while, the very tall man turned to Rory and said, "Rory O'Donoghue, I must go away for a little while. Will you watch my pig and turn it on the spit, and make sure you turn it so its whiskers don't burn?" Oh, yes, sir, I'll do that as long as you're not too long away." And suddenly the little man disappeared. Well, Rory continued to turn that spit. And every now and again the voice from the pig would come, "Watch my whiskers!" Well, he turned, and after a while there was no sign of the big man coming back. And Rory thought, "Well, I can't stay here all night. I have to find myself a place to stay." And he put down the spit, and he started to walk away. And suddenly the voice behind him said, "Come back here and turn that spit. I don't want with my whiskers burned. Come back here and turn that spit." And Rory just took off, and he started to run. And when he looked back here, the pig rolls off the spit and came after him. And Rory O'Donoghue ran down that road, and that pig caught up to him, hit him on the back of the shoulder, along his sides, and Rory ran and ran, and he saw a house, ran up to the house, pulled open the door, slammed it as the pig banged up against the outside. "You're welcome back to my house, Rory O'Donoghue." And here he is, found himself back in the house, and the little man was now lying on a bed that came down out of the wall. Rory and the little man flicked his fingers, and another bed on the opposite side came down. "Come and rest yourself." Oh, sir, I couldn't. I'm all dirty from head to toe, and there's blood on my shoulders. I couldn't lie on your clean clothes." "Well, Rory, what happened to you?" "Oh, sir, it was terrible. When I left your house, I went down the road and I found a fireplace, and there was a very tall man with a very small voice, and he had a pig, and he was turning it on a spit, and he asked me to turn the pig because he had to go away, and I turned it for a long time, but after a while, I got tired and I decided to leave. The pig picked itself off the spit, came after me, beat me on my head and my shoulders until I get back into your house." "Well, Rory, if you had told me a story like that to begin with, you would not have had to leave my house." "What?" It was one of those moments we sometimes don't understand. But Rory O'Donoghue, the little man said, "Rory, rest yourself. It's been a long day." He snapped his fingers, and Rory O'Donoghue was so tired, he lay himself down on that bed. And he slept one of the most wonderful sleeps of his life ever. And when he woke the next morning, and he opened his eyes, and there he was, back on the road, the familiar road near his house. And his sack of socks was under his head. And he picked himself up and he looked around. And there was no house with a small little man and a very large voice. And there was no fire camp with a very tall man and a small boy. All gone. And Rory thought, oh my God, I must have gotten weary and lay down. And what a dream I've had. And so he picked up the bag of socks and put it on his shoulders. And he knew the direction he had to go. He knew where he had to take it. And as he started to walk away, he got a very sudden, an unusual feeling about himself. And the voice of the old man came into his head. Rory O'Donoghue, learn our stories. Learn our history. Learn of the struggles of our people. Learn our myths and our legends and tell them. It is important. We are a great people with a great history and a great culture. It must be kept alive. You can do this. And Rory proceeded down the road with those thoughts in his head. And it all turned out as planned. For you see, Rory O'Donoghue lived to the age of 95. And he had a wonderful life. He raised a wonderful family. And it was a wonderful part of his community. But most important of all, he went and he learned the stories. He learned the history of Ireland. He learned the myths and the legends and the stories of his own family and his own people. And he became one of the great Shanakees. The Irish language word for storyteller. He became one of the great Shanakees in all of Ireland. And of course, he was invited everywhere. And everywhere Rory O'Donoghue went to, he always had a story to tell. Thank you very much.